All right, let's get started with the group we have here. We'll give everybody time to get back on, but welcome to this Focused Goals Formula Workshop. Thanks for taking the time to be on. My name's Ryan Lloyd, and I'm super excited for the stuff we have planned today. Just some housekeeping items. I am going to first just give you guys like 30 minutes of just value that you can use moving forward with how you think about goals, how you think about the work that you're doing in your business, and to really just help you out. And then in the last few minutes, I'm going to have an opportunity where you can opt in to continue the progress that we're going to make today. But the main idea of today is just to provide you guys with a really good chunk of value that you can take going forward out of this workshop. If you're comfortable, I am a huge one-on-one connection guy, visual. So if you would like to and feel comfortable and can turn your cameras on, this should be pretty interactive. I'm going to ask for some confirmations in the chat. Feel free to use the chat. Feel free to ask questions in the chat. I'm going to probably save answering those until the end. We will have a Q&A where we will stay on as long as I need to answer any questions anyone has. But if you want to remember something as we're going along, feel free to put it in the chat, just so you remember and that kind of a thing. So let's get going with today. So let me pull these slides back up. And then put in the chat too, if you guys have trouble hearing me or you can't see something along the way, just let me know. I'll try to keep track of that. Okay. So we're going to do the focus goals formula today. So what this is we are going to set a killer 90-day goal that aligns your daily work in order to achieve that goal as well, because that's the most important part in your business, right? And put in the chat too for me just what kind of businesses we have on today. If you own a business, put in the chat what kind you have. But if it sounds good to you to achieve this 90-day goal, put a yes in the chat. Let me know that this sounds great to you, because I think it's something we all want to achieve. So if you're here today and you've struggled with this, you're in the right place. If you've ever made a big goal, especially in your business, a week later, a day later, sometimes if you're me, hours later, you're overwhelmed, you get distracted by other things, you have too many things to juggle, and that motivation for that goal just goes away, right? And you find yourself just kind of spinning your wheels in your business. If that's you, you're in the right place. This is also for you if you're a small business owner and you're wearing multiple hats. All of us are doing like all of the things. If you've ever felt like that, maybe you're working a 9 to 5, or you're at home and you're trying to transition into business ownership and get a business running. And so you're trying to juggle both of those worlds, right? Number 3, maybe you're trying to have family and friend and social life, and you're trying to also take care of yourself along with doing business. It can be really overwhelming. It's for anyone with a business or starting a business. If you're already established, or if you're just starting out, or if you've ever tried to accomplish a thing but you feel unmotivated and overwhelmed. So if you resonate with any of these numbers, throw those numbers in the chat and let me know what resonates with you. So Darlene, we have affiliate marketing. Okay, awesome. Great. So what we're going to talk about today is maybe different than what you've experienced in other goal setting exercises that you've done. All of this is geared towards business owners, and that makes it really, really unique, okay? Because we have to think of our time differently than other people think of their time. If I'm in a 9 to 5, I'm thinking about my time and using my time a little differently. In business, our time is directly correlated to how much money or revenue we're going to make in our business. So we need to approach the way we make goals differently. We need to approach the way we think about time differently, okay? And let me just come off slides right here just to talk to you directly. So we've probably tried things like this in the past, right? We've tried setting goals, maybe we've tried planning, we've tried all this stuff before, but we've often done it in a silo where we get into these self-destructive cycles of things like procrastination and just putting things off and getting really discouraged and we haven't applied a system to things, you've probably tried all this before, and it's probably been really discouraging at times. Oh, I didn't accomplish that, or oh, I didn't make progress. But I'm here to tell you today, I've got you. I'm going to show you a little bit of a different way to think about this stuff. Okay, so I'm really excited to show you what we have today because I think it's going to be different than what you've experienced in the past. And I want to help you get to that next level. So first, just some stats. So if you've ever felt this way, you're not alone. 46% of business owners said time wasting tasks was a real challenge for their business, right? So almost half. And I think that this number is probably low. It's probably much higher than this. So if you felt this way, that's okay. You're not alone. Business owners spend an average of 9 hours per week on excessive multitasking, which is trying to do two things at once, right? Which we know is not the way to go about things. Okay. And also on context switching. So going from one thing to the other. I'm sending emails 1 second, and then I got to return these phone calls the other second. And then I got to think about this family thing that I have going on tonight, the next section. You're context switching, right? And nearly 20% of business owners' time is wasted context switching and multitasking and with waste. And that's what this looks like in numbers. Like I said, we as business owners need to think of our time differently, right? What if 1 hour of you working on your business intentionally meant that you could make $100 in revenue? Okay. If we took that 20% of time that's being wasted on average for business owners, that equals $800 a week, $3,200 a month, 41,600 a year, right, in waste. And for a lot of us, that dollar amount number per hour is maybe a little higher in what we could probably make. And we also might be spending more than that 40 hours a week. So these dollar amounts for a lot of us are even higher than that, right? So the way we think about our goals and the way we use our time to try to achieve those goals is very, very different than what everyone else, the rest of the world, how they are approaching their time and thinking about it. Okay. Like I said, the conversation today is custom to business owners. And you might be thinking, oh, I have one type of business. How does this apply to me? Maybe it's just for this person next to me in the workshop. Is it really for my type of business? With some things in business, it doesn't make sense. Like if I own an ice cream shop, what a welder does, a welding business, that's not really comparable, right? I'm probably not going to learn a lot from that person or have things that overlap. But with time, it's very, very different. Okay. Time is the same for all of us. The stuff that we're going to show today applies to you no matter what type of business you have, no matter how you like to work. It's going to be very customizable and very applicable. Okay. So like we said, we have to have a different mentality than the 9 to 5. One example of that at the bottom on the slide here is delegation, right? In business, we have the opportunity to pay someone else to do something for us in our business. And that's one example of something that's different for us as business owners, right? Generally in your 9 to 5, you can delegate things to people maybe you're supervising, but it's not like I can pass this totally off and I'm going to get reimbursed for it, right? So delegation is something that I teach strategies on how to do that better and how to do it effectively. That's just one example of how this is different for business. And I've been there trying to juggle a lot of things, right? I've made the transition from the 9 to 5. I worked as a program manager in tech for 20 plus years and successfully juggled that 9 to 5 to make this transition over into business, right? But that took intentionality, and it took me being really, really intentional with how I spent my time and what I did, right? But I found a better way through business. I saw that I could leverage more of my time more effectively to build the life that I wanted through business, but it takes juggling a lot of things to do that. And then when you're in business, it takes methods to juggle a lot of things when you're in business, which I'm sure a lot of us know. So put a yes in the chat if you've ever had this experience where you feel like the person in this image, right? As a business owner, you're juggling fires, right? You're getting fires thrown at you, you're getting distractions, you're getting lots of things coming your way. You're waking up maybe not knowing what to work on each day in your business because you have this big list of things to do and you just don't know what things to focus on. And what I want you to do right now is just stop and do some self-inventory and say, how did it make me feel when Ryan was describing that? When I was thinking over what the things I have to do and my distractions, how was that making me feel, right? So we need to be intentional about checking in with ourselves. And we're going to talk more about that later, right? If you're comfortable, put how that makes you feel in the chat. Yeah, not organized and frustrated. I think we've all been there. Yeah. So we have some people here that are feeling that. I want you to know if you're feeling this way, you're not lazy, you're not broken, you're not doing anything wrong. Yeah, Darlene says pulling my hair out. Exactly. Right? You're not lazy or broken. Let me just tell you what we're going to do. Like I was talking about before, I'll come off slides again. We just need to reinvent yourself, right? You're likely doing some things to self-sabotage. You're likely procrastinating. You likely haven't applied some of the systems that I'm going to start to show you today. You likely haven't had a support system. So all of us go through this. We saw it in the stats. Like if you're feeling this way, you're not alone. We just need to work to get you to that next level, like to reinvent yourself. And we're going to talk about a little bit how to do that today. And Leah was one person that I've helped through my content start to do this, right? And Leah just had been starting out as a business owner. She was just trying to get a business going. So if you're sitting here today thinking, does this apply to me? I'm just starting out, or I'm more established. The answer is yes. This absolutely applies to you and is useful to you no matter which one of those camps you're in. But I loved with Leah, I was able to take and work with her, and she was able to finally focus on the right things in her business, right? We all have all these things we can focus on, but focusing on the right things is key. So just to review, we are going to define a clear 90-day goal for you today. We're going to learn how to connect your daily tasks to that goal, and then I'm going to show you a simple framework you can use and repeat every quarter. So I'm super excited to show you this. So let's get started. Let's talk one more time just about how this affects you, because in business, in my opinion, revenue is great and having success is great, but we got into business to build our lives the way we want to build them and to have a good life and to feel good, right? And so I just want you to reflect again on like this state we've been in of not achieving these goals and being distracted. A lot of times, maybe we feel guilty or we know we're not living up to the potential we have as a business owner. And that's frustrating and overwhelming, right? And again, we've all been there. And today I'm going to show you how to take a different path. So we can choose to take this left-hand path that we've always been on and probably get the same results we've always gotten, or we can choose to make a positive change and go the other direction, right? And so we're going to talk about how to do that today. And I'm really excited to show you this new path forward that we're going to take. So let's get into what this focused goals formula is that you've been hearing so much about through the emails I've been sending you and all of that. What this is basically just challenging some of the ideas on how people think about goals and how they approach them. The first thing is we're kind of in the middle of this right now. It's December. Everyone's talking about 2026. I'm going to make New Year's resolutions, right? This is what I'm going to achieve in 2026. And 1 year and 3 year and 5 year like vision planning has its place, right? But at an applicable, actionable level, it's actually very, very unuseful because it's just too big of an amount of time with too many variables. You cannot predict where you're going to be in a year. If you were to think back on, let's say a year ago, December 2024, and you thought back on 2025, right? Put a yes in the chat if you had a lot of things happen to you in 2025 that you could not predict. I know I had a ton of things. Put a yes in the chat if that's you. Yeah, Darlene, it's you. It's all of us, right? It's impossible to plan that far ahead, especially when we're talking about what we're going to work on day to day. So that's the first thing that we're going to talk about is we just don't know. And so what we need to do is we need to focus on these 90-day segments of time, right? And yeah, someone's saying good things happen to me. I'm in shock. So good things and bad things can happen, right? We just don't know. But when we go in and we focus and we say, I'm going to make a 90-day goal, what we're doing is we're creating focus. And we're going to talk a lot about focus today. Focus is very, very, very powerful. Okay. So the first way we do that is we're going to focus on 90 days and we're going to, instead of annual. Okay. The other way we're going to focus is we're not going to have 10 goals. We are going to have one goal that we focus on for 90 days. Okay. You can have two if you want. I recommend one because, again, it creates that focus. And to kind of illustrate this a little bit and talk about some things people think about this, we've heard this phrase, the rising tide raises all ships, right? So I have drawn here some ships representing different areas of your life you could choose to focus on and your business, right? So you could focus on sales in your business. You could focus on your personal health. You could focus on maybe your social media presence in your business. And then there's a whole fleet of ships off the side of the slide here, right? That hundreds that you could focus on. But when I tell people to focus on one thing, a lot of times they're like, but then all these other things, all these other areas of your life, are going to sink to the bottom. I'm going to neglect those, and it's going to be a disaster. That's actually not what happens, because what happens is when we intentionally focus, the other areas of our lives are all interconnected, right? So when I focus on my business sales, I'm probably going to have a lot more energy and feel a lot better about myself to be able to then get to the gym or eat better and focus on my personal health. Or maybe I'm going to have bandwidth freed up that I can then go focus on my social media presence, right? It may not raise it up to the same level as my sales that I'm focusing on, but it is going to like make all areas of your life better. Okay. The other thing too is when people worry about focusing on one thing, it's only 90 days. Okay. 90 days from now, you can choose to focus on the other areas, right? And slowly you're going to raise all ships in your life or all areas of your life up. Okay. Another way I want to kind of illustrate this, and I like teaching and coaching in several different ways, showing things different ways, just because I think it helps explain things differently to different people. So let's see if this will focus a little better. There we go. So we got the sun, right? We'll use this example. And the sun gives off energy or light, right? And we are all kind of down here on the earth. And we benefit from the sunlight, right? Helps things grow, keeps us warm, all that stuff. Okay. This is indirect light that we're benefiting from. We can take that same light, and you've probably done this as a kid or seen it done. And if we take a magnifying glass and that indirect sunlight goes through that magnifying glass, right? What happens? It focuses that indirect light into one specific spot. And when it does that, the sun then can do things like it'll start a fire or burn things, right? Because it's taking this energy and focusing it, right? This is what I like to refer to as what we're doing. We're creating focus through one goal and 90-day focus periods, right? This indirect way of doing things with the light is when we do like annual goals or lots of goals, right? This isn't as powerful. And the reason this is important is, unlike the sun, we don't have an unlimited supply of energy, right? So the energy we do get over here, we need to take that energy and harness it and focus it so that we can actually get things done and accomplished. Okay. So that's just another way of kind of illustrating and talking about the power of focus. Okay. So let's go back to the slides here and we'll keep talking about this. The next thing we want to talk about is how do we pick a goal, right? Because you've probably thought of a few things you could do in your business this coming 90 days, right? So I like questions. Questions are very powerful. So here's some ideas of really good questions you can ask yourself to try to come up with that goal. What's going to move the needle significantly in your business? And that's different for all of us, right? We all have different things we need to do and different levels we're at. What's one thing you could accomplish in the next 90 days that would make you feel like you had significant success? That's another good way to find a good goal. And what's one thing that would just make you feel amazing if you could accomplish it? And kind of building on that, these are really powerful here. What would life be like if you achieved that goal? So 90 days from now, if you achieve that goal, what would your life be like? And kind of building on that, you can ask yourself, how would you think differently 90 days from now if you accomplish that? What are different things you would do 90 days from now or be able to do? Would feelings change? How would your feelings change if 90 days from now you were able to accomplish that, right? If you're comfortable, throw in the chat how you would do these things differently. What would you do differently? What would you feel differently? Or what would you think differently if you could accomplish that goal that you might have in the back of your head right now? Okay. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but this is just a framework that we've probably all seen. The SMART framework, right? We need to make our goals smart. So specific to your business, right? Darlene said, I just might feel worthy. I love that. I love that. Yeah. Get up earlier and focus on the one goal for now. Yeah, for sure. I'm going to talk about getting up earlier, getting up and knowing what to work on, not necessarily earlier, but we'll talk about that. So SMART goals, specific to our business and what we're trying to accomplish. Measurable, meaning we have a way to know when we're done, we've accomplished it. That's usually done through numbers, right? So making sure there's a number assigned. Attainable, meaning we want to stretch ourselves, but we don't want to make it unattainable, right? We want to make progress, but make it attainable. Relevant to our business and kind of where we're going long term, and then time bound, meaning we have a deadline, right? We have a deadline for that goal, so we know what we're shooting for. And for this, it's probably going to be 90 days from now, so easy. Okay, now I want to talk about goals and tactics. This is the other section of the formula, okay, that people get wrong a lot of the time. And I'll talk about the difference between a goal and a tactic, but the mistake people make is measuring the goal and that progress and not necessarily measuring the tactics that they're doing. So I'll give you the example of a soccer player. If I'm a soccer player and I say, I want to score more goals in games, that's a goal that I have. Okay. I want to increase that amount to, I don't know, 1 goal a game. Okay. Tactics that I'm going to probably do are I need to spend 2 hours a day in the gym. I need to spend 1 hour a day studying soccer strategy. I need to spend 2 hours every week before games studying my opponent, right? Those are the tactics that I'm going to actually do to try to achieve this goal. Okay. And the reason that you want to focus on those things, those tactics, is because we have 100% control over the tactic. I have 100% control over if I show up at the gym or if I study soccer strategy or if I study about my opponent. 100% control. Okay. I do not have 100% control over goals that I'm scoring in a game. There's too many external factors. And that's how it works out a lot of time with a goal, right? I have no control over how much time the coach puts me in. I have no control over how good the team is that I'm playing. I have no control over the weather or how I'm feeling that way or what position I'm playing, right? There's just too many unknowns. But what I can measure and focus on is I'm going to spend that time in the gym. So you can kind of see the difference. And the mistake a lot of people make is they measure the goal and they say, oh, I don't see the number of times I'm scoring going up in a short amount of time. It must be failing. I must be failing at something. And so then they go and change all their tactics. But like, if I'm talking about scoring goals in a soccer game, that's probably going to take a few months for me to start seeing those results, right? So we want to measure tactics and focus on the tactic, okay? Because we have 100% control over that. this is kind of what that looks like if you were to lay it out. So you can see how these tactics that are listed under each goal is something that I would have 100% control over, right? And you can list them out this way, right? And measure, I'm fulfilling this tactic 80% of the time. And if you're doing that 80% of the time consistently, you're probably going to achieve that goal way fast, like more than you could imagine. Again, because you're creating that focus, right? And you also laying it out this way have a really nice roadmap to just keep track of your tactics. So this is just one idea of how you could kind of do this. So let's review. We talked about creating a 90-day time frame for goals and how that creates focus, how to get a goal that moves the needle and decide which goal we're going to work on. We talked about tactics and measuring what we have 100% control over and measuring those tactics and not the goal, right? Okay, so it's not enough to just establish goals though, right? So who in here, put a yes in the chat if you have a big scary to-do list. When you leave this workshop, I have a big scary to-do list, right? That's really long of things that I could be working on, okay? And a lot of people are like that. But that's probably you. We're going to talk about how to overcome that, yeah? So yes, we have some people here that have those to-do lists. So this is really easy. And as I'm talking through this stuff, you might be thinking, oh, this sounds really complicated and I'm not really organized and it's overwhelming. But these are really simple changes you can make and you can make over time. And as you do that, you're going to make progress if you do this consistently, right? Okay. So the first thing with the to-do list is you want to brain dump everything and get everything that's in your head that you're thinking about constantly that you have to do. You need to get it on paper or digital on an app or on your notes app on your phone. Get all of that stuff out of your head, out of post-it notes, out of little other to-do lists maybe you have that are around the house. Get it all into one space. So you have one source of truth. That's the biggest mistake people make. And again, it doesn't matter how you do it, just however you like to do it and works for you, get it all in one spot. Because what that allows us to do now is now we can prioritize those to-do list items against this goal that we just set for ourselves, right? And we can start to see how much does each of these individual tasks move the needle towards that goal I'm trying to accomplish. And the way that I like to advise people to do this is very simple. It's basically just taking each task and you're going to assign it a number 1 through 5. 1 being those that align the most with the goal that you set, and 5 being those that align the least or are least connected. So this is just an example that I have on the slide here of if my goal was to make more sales in my business, okay? Following up with warm leads that I've already talked to, people I've already talked to, that's probably a pretty good use of my time if I'm trying to make more sales, right? So that's probably a 1. Checking my email is probably a 5, which it usually is a 5, like checking your email, okay? And you can see how those are very different from each other. And then you have some that are kind of in the middle, like I have on here content calendar. So maybe I could say, hey, I need to go spend some time on my content calendar to try to put some content out there that will eventually lead to a sale, right? But it's indirectly connected. It's not the same and not as directly connected as actually following up with warm leads, right? So you need to be aware of the trap where you talk yourself into doing these ones that are kind of 2s or 3s, because for whatever reason, procrastination or you're not comfortable with it or whatever, you don't want to do the 1s, right? Because we know the 1s will get you to your goal. So you can see how you've created kind of a system here to create some focus, right? So if this is making sense to you, let me know in the chat. Put a yes or put any questions that you have. Let's review what we talked about. So we brain dump everything into one to-do list, right? And then that allows us to prioritize, okay? And what this does is it creates alignment, okay? So what we just did was create alignment between our goal and the work that we're doing every day. And we created ourselves this little system. So now what you could do is next time you're mindlessly checking your email or scrolling, doom scrolling, You're like, hey, this activity is a 5. I remember from my to-do list. I need to like focus on the ones, and you can kind of like re-vector yourself towards focusing on that goal, right? So we created a really simple little system. Okay. And this is just the beginning of what we need to do. And part of that reason is because when we get out of this meeting, out of this workshop, I'll kind of illustrate this again, we're going to have distractions that come up. Okay, so what we've done in here, I like the analogy of a race car track. We've created this path that we want our business to be able to follow. I like to think of a car as our business. So we're trying to maneuver our business, our car, down this track, right, in the next 90 days. And you're over here as the business owner, right? And you're trying to think about how to do that. When you get out of this workshop, you're going to have those distractions coming up, though. You're going to have, oh, I need to check my email. I need to make these phone calls. Oh, I got to go over here and do this. I got to has its place, but I got to do some family stuff, right? But I need to plan intentionally around that. But that's often a distraction. You're going to have these things that come up that distract you from this 90-day plan, right? And so we're going to talk about how we kind of overcome this. And what I'm going to show you is a framework for how to do this. And how I like to think of this framework is, so on this road, right? We're going to create some boundaries, or the limits of this road, the sides of this road. And you can operate within these boundaries, and you can customize it to what's going on with your business. You can customize it to how you like to work and the different things that you need to do in your business, right? And because like in a race, if I'm in a race and I'm in a car, right, I'm going to have other cars that come up and obstacles and things that I need to overcome. So I need to kind of swerve around those and change the path within this road, right? And that's what we're going to talk about, is how to customize this. The other way this is different with a lot of us is we have different race tracks we're following, right? This path is not the same for all of us and where we want to take our businesses. Some races, like NASCAR, are an oval shape, right? Some, like F1, are cars that they weave in and out of racetracks that go in cities. Actually, they just did one of these in Vegas, I think, last year. So those racetracks are very different. Maybe it's a Baja race, right? You're going through mountains, there's rocks, there's water, right? There's all kinds of things. And each one of these is an example of how your business is different than mine, and we have different tracks. But we can operate within these boundaries that I'm going to show you, and it will work for any one of these scenarios, right? Because you've probably been in scenarios where you've had people talking to you about your time management and your productivity in your business. And they're like, hey, this system works for me. If you follow it exactly, it's going to work for you. But that's not how this works. It's not a one size fits all scenario. And that's kind of the approach that I take. But just imagine the possibilities. So imagine the possibilities if you could wake up every day knowing exactly what to work on in your business, and that big scary to-do list was way more manageable, right? Because again, you've probably tried some of this stuff before, right? And if you're like me, you've had nights where you can't sleep because you're worried about some of the things that you have to do in your business. You're worried about wondering what to do next. You're maybe like distracting yourself in the middle of the night on your cell phone, like doing different things like social media or email. And then you wake up really tired the next day and it just kind of snowballs, right? I think we've all done that. But imagine if you could wake up every day and you haven't had that lack of sleep because you have the clarity, you know where you're going with your goal, and you know exactly what to work on in your business, right? Imagine the transformation there. Okay. Gary Keller is the author of the book, The One Thing. Great book. I love at the end of this quote right here, he says that focusing is how we advance the world. And I like to change that to say it's how we advance our own world. We got into business to build the life that we want to live, and focus is one of the ways that we can advance that. And like I said, this is not a one size fits all approach. And we're going to talk about kind of what this is. So this is my framework that I teach and I coach on, and it's called the business acceleration phases. It's basically a plan phase, a do phase, and a review phase. And we talk about what we'll do in each one of these phases in a minute. We covered just a tiny sliver of the planning phase today on little things you can do in your business and take from this workshop and implement right now to make a big change. So let me kind of go through and just explain some of these phases. So in the planning phase, the performance blueprint phase is what I like to call it. What we're doing is we're setting goals that are effective. We're learning how to do now daily planning. So how do you go out of this workshop and do a daily plan? And then longer term weekly and monthly planning to kind of keep you on track for this awesome goal that you've set for yourself. How do you go about prioritizing and using a calendar effectively and task lists? We talked a little bit about that, right? So those are all things that are involved in the planning phase. Okay. And you might be thinking, oh, planning's useless to me. I'm not a planner. I've tried this before. I've tried goals before and it doesn't work. But let me ask you if you've ever done it with some of the systems and the mental methods that I'm going to talk to you about and be able to teach you, right? Have you ever done it as and build a system, right? You can see the difference between when we were talking about task lists. Everyone has task lists, but they don't incorporate them into a system like we just did before, right? And that may be one of the differences in what you've tried before and now with what I can teach you and show you how to do is using these tiny systems and easy systems to get you to where you want to be. In phase two, what we talk about is we talk about full throttle execution. This is where the rubber meets the road and you actually get things done in your business. Okay. And 100% transparency. I don't know if this is 100% historically accurate, but I like the example. So I want to talk about cinder blocks of all things. So bricks historically were solid, right? And at times very heavy or small enough that they could be carried, and then it was slower to build walls and buildings. So the idea with the cinder block when it came about was it's like, why don't we make the brick bigger and take out material out of the middle, the waste? This has the this has the capability to be lighter, easier to carry around, right? And we can build buildings faster with it. Plus, it has the added plus of adding insulation because there's air in the middle of these bricks, and that would insulate buildings better. And it's just as strong a construction material as other bricks, right? So the idea here is by removing that waste, they actually made the product better. And that's actually what we just did earlier with your to-do list, right? We got rid of those waste tasks and not focusing on those, right? And we focused on the things that are essential to your business. And that's kind of what we do in this execution phase. We learn how to prioritize the right things. We learn focus strategies to when you're actually going and working now, you're focused and you can get into these deep work sessions. I talked earlier about delegation. We learn how to delegate, right? So if things are entirely off of your plate, they're not taking any of your time. But we need to know how to effectively do that, right? And they teach lots of other strategies and things on how to do that. And you may be thinking again, this sounds pretty complicated. It sounds like a lot. It's really not. It's really small changes that you can make over time, and I can help you know how to do those. And what I would say to that too is the cost of staying stuck is way higher than making these changes. Okay. It's costing your business money to not be focused and not be going down this path effectively. Right. So and it's also causing you mental angst, right? You're feeling guilty or overwhelmed or a bunch of different things. Right. And the other thing I like to say too is I heard the phrase a few months ago, imperfect excellence, and I loved that. I want to be excellent in my business, but that does not mean that I need to do it perfectly and I need to do everything all at once, right? I can go along the way and strive for excellence, but I can make mistakes along the way and I can learn a process and go back and review and then do it better the next time, right? How many of you have fallen victim to imperfection? If you've done that, put a yes in the chat. I think we've all done that where we're trying to be perfect with things. And that kind of goes into phase 3, right? Where now we're going through and reviewing. So we've planned, we've done, and now we just need to go back and we need to review, and we need to then go refine the system over time and make it better every time we do it. Yeah, a lot of us have struggled with imperfection. We're seeing some of that in the chat. So in phase 3, we talk about how to do reviews, daily, weekly, monthly reviews. We go through our system and we say, okay, how are these business acceleration phases working for me? How did they work the last week or month? And what do I need to adjust? Okay. And the reason this is powerful is Greg McKeown, the author of Essentialism, talks about this exactly. The reason reflection is essential and important is it allows us to identify the essential things in our lives and in our business. Okay. So we can begin to move forward, and we can kind of, like the cinder block, pull out that waste, right, from the middle and only focus on the essential things. And that will make us happier, more successful, and hopefully increase our business revenue. So you can see we have this little system, 3 simple phases with things we can focus on in each phase. Again, we've only covered kind of the sliver of the plan phase today. Okay. And I've got you with this. I'm going to show you in a minute how you can take this system and you can implement it long term. Okay. And I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm here to support you in that. First, I want to ask you to take an action. And what I want you to do is simply write down one thing, only one thing that you're going to do today from this session that you've learned. Maybe you're going to come up with that 90-day goal and make it something that's only going to take you 5 to 10 minutes. Maybe you're going to write down all your to-do list items in one spot. Or maybe you have a to-do list and you're going to say, I'm going to go prioritize 20 of these tasks, okay, with the 1 through 5 system. But take an action, right? I'm a huge action taking person. We need to, when we're learning things, the whole reason for learning things is then to go and do something about it, okay? So I want you to do that, because action beats intention every time. If you're going to take an action today, if you want to, throw it in the chat. Let me know what exactly you're going to do from what you learned earlier, okay? We talked about this before. Once we get out of this workshop, life's pretty chaotic, right? And we're going to have those distractions come up. And we know we're going to kind of try to fall back into that state we were before we maybe learned something new today. But I've got you. I'm going to show you again how to make this long term. Let's first just review kind of what we covered. So we covered setting goals the right way, okay, through focus. We covered how to think about tactics, prioritizing our to-do list items into one to-do list, and then prioritizing what works for our goal. And then I kind of started talking about business acceleration phases, right? And again, just imagine 90 days from now, if you could wake up every day knowing exactly what to work on in your business, those distractions were gone. You looked at your to-do list every day and you got excited, right? This is the stuff that I get to work on, and I know exactly what to pick off of here in my to-do list. And most importantly, imagine 90 days from now, just feeling like how you would feel, what you would do, and how you would think if you had accomplished this 90-day goal, right? That we have talked about today. Just imagine that transformation. And I want to help you get there. And I'm really excited to offer you this to help you do that. So this is my coaching program that I do that is an 8-week path to business success and a balanced life. And the more important part to me actually in that is a balanced life. The reason we are in business is to create the lives that we want to have, right? And so that's where we want to go. And what this is a coaching program that will teach you this business acceleration system in full. Again, we only covered this little sliver today, and this will take you through all of these aspects, and it will give you an awesome support system that I want to talk about to help you achieve this 90-day goal that you just set for yourself. And it will help you get through those distractions that are going to come up, right, when we get out of here. It's a complete solution that consists of group and one-on-one coaching. And I want to tell you about some of the different parts of this, right? The core part of this is you will be able to jump on a weekly live session with me where I will teach you a part of the business acceleration phase each week. And at the end, I will open it up for questions. You can say, hey, Ryan, I'm getting stuck here. Can you help me with that? This part wasn't really clear to me. You can maybe ask a question specific about your business. And I teach the full system. The other thing I do is I am maxing out this coaching program at only 10 people. And so that is huge. You are going to get some really individual guidance and some really good interactivity because that's important to me. That is how I think we should do business in this age of AI, where we're taught that everything's AI and that's the best way to do it. That certainly has its place, but face-to-face connection and interaction is how we really get effective business done and how we make ourselves the best in our business. You've probably been part of other coaching programs where you're like, oh, I've done this before. I just feel like a number. That is not this because I intentionally cap it at this number of people and then have a lot of things that I'm going to talk about right now that make it so you get a lot of individual and personalized attention. The other thing we do in the program is once a week, we will do a weekly deep focus session. And these are one of my favorite things that we do. You can bring anything that you are working on in your business, and I will facilitate a session where we all as a group work on everything that we're doing. We work on it individually, but at the same time, and you're getting things done. And then when that focus time is over, we come back together. We have an opportunity to share wins with each other and say, hey, here's what I've accomplished. I've had people come and say, hey, I built out my whole email sequence in an hour. This was amazing and so quick. Or I connected with 3 potential clients during this deep focus session. So these are awesome, an awesome way to just get something done. It's stuff you're already going to work on anyway in your business, but we're showing you a way to, again, create that deep focus and get things done really, really effectively. The other thing that we offer in the community is the Business Acceleration community page. And this is basically your hub for all things in the program. We'll post when events are, when program info, that kind of a thing. But it's also a great opportunity for the business owners that join to kind of share ideas back and forth, right? And network with each other. And that's a huge value to this. So again, what does this mean for you? These 3 parts, right? So a built-in partner or crew chief through me. And I like to think of me as your racing crew chief, right? Taking the racing metaphor. The crew chief is there to advise the drivers in your case, the business owners, right? Hey, you need to watch out for this obstacle, or hey, your car's running low on gas, or hey, maybe you could do this way. I'm there to support you, right? And so is everyone else in the program, right? And what this means for you eventually, hopefully, is 1, you will achieve that 90-day goal and you're going to increase that business revenue and you're going to have more success in your business, okay? So how does this work? So it's 8 weeks. This is what a week could look like, right? And we'll customize this to whoever ends up joining and the times that work for most people. Live session with me on Q&A where I teach you a part of that program. And then we could have a deep work session on a Thursday, right? Where you're actually coming and getting something done. And then you have that whole Business Acceleration League community there to support you, okay? And you finally finish things. So Carrie's someone that I've helped out. And I loved that she said here, she's finally finishing things. And this made a huge difference in her productivity when she went through some of my content and learned some of these things, right? Because the cost of staying stuck is really, really high, like we've talked about. Remember the graphic from the first with the dollar amounts. Remember how you're feeling and the distraction and the putting out fires and the not knowing what to work on. The cost of staying stuck and where we're at is really high. This is the value that you're getting with just these 3 parts that I talked about, right? So the weekly sessions, the deep focus sessions, and the business community is a $4,600 value. But I am the type of person where I want to offer this to as many people as I possibly can and get as many in as I can, right? And so the investment for you today is actually only $997. I'm a business owner too. I understand that we have to spread budget out over a period of time sometimes. And so for that reason too, I offer an option where you can pay and split that in half. and just pay it $498.50 in 2 payments. There's no advantage to doing it either way as far as price cuts or whatever. I just like to offer that as an option because, again, I'm a business owner. I know how that goes. And I'm going to be doing another webinar later, probably next week, where this price is going to go up and almost and double to $19.97. So if you get in today, you save your spot of those 10 spots and make sure you get a spot, right? And you're going to save a lot by doing it today. So go to ryanloyd.com/start now, and I'll put that link here in the chat so you can easily just click on it and you can make that investment and let's get started working together. If you're not comfortable just going in and buying through the cart, I do have at the bottom of the cart page, there's a Talk to Ryan button. If you want to click on that, I actually have 15-minute sessions set up right after this webinar where you and I can hop on a call and you and I can just talk through any questions you have about this. Okay. And we can go from there. So if you feel better doing that, I also offer that option because I get it. Like we're all in different spots and I want to offer that to anyone as an option. Okay. Again, like how much is this scenario we talked about the first costing you, right? How much is it costing you in revenue and how much is it costing you mentally, right? And I have some other bonuses too that are going to make this even better that I'm going to talk about in the middle or in a minute. So go to ryanloyd.com/start now because the cost of staying in this state that we talked about before, it's just too high and it's just too easy to get going and just start working on this. Okay, in addition to the stuff that I talked about before, I have 3 bonuses today that I'm offering. Okay, and this first one, I do not know if I will ever do this again. Okay, but what you're going to get also in addition to the other stuff is I will do a 30-minute one-on-one session with you every 2 weeks throughout the 8 weeks, right? Where we can hop on and get on one-on-one and we can go through specific things with your business on, hey, I'm trying to implement the business acceleration phases this way, and this is how my business works or how I think, and it's not quite working. How can I customize that, right? Or, hey, Ryan, I'm kind of getting stuck here. And we can hop on calls and do this. And again, this is an amazing opportunity. I don't know that I'll do this again because it does take my time, obviously, more than doing group stuff. But this is awesome for you guys for being on here today. The other thing I'll do too is we have a messenger app and you can message me specifically during the week outside of calls, outside of these one-on-one sessions. And 5 days a week during business hours, I'll respond within 24 hours to any messages you have on ways or things that you're getting stuck. And this is a $4,000 value just in and of itself. You're getting basically one-on-one coaching, which is crazy for the $997 investment. So go to ryanloyd.com/start now. You're basically going to get me in your pocket whenever you want to ask any questions and just help you along the way here. Okay. The second thing you're going to get is we have a bunch of templates and guides and workbooks that go along with the entire program, right? And these are meant to help you go and implement faster, right? And we really do get a lot of good feedback on these. So some of our most popular, our high performance handoff guide is that delegation. We'll talk about a delegation module, but then there's a guide that walks you through how to delegate, how to make a delegation plan if you don't have anyone to delegate to yet, and how to make sure those things get done. We have your productivity profile, and that's where we kind of learn to customize this system to your business, your profile, how you like to work, whether you're like a paper person or a digital person, that kind of a thing. We customize this to you. We provide the revenue acceleration template, which is how do I identify the revenue generating tasks in my to-do list? And how do I use those to make me the most money, right? So that's a $1,600 value just with this, okay? So again, these are just meant to help you implement. So go to ryanloyd.com/start now. Let's get started with that. Okay, bonus 3, the last one is we do provide weekly recordings of all of the sessions. So the weekly sessions, the deep focus sessions, there'll be a recording of those. So if you're going to miss something one week, you don't have to worry about that because you can go back and watch the recording. You can also message me ahead of time and say, hey, Ryan, I have this question about this. Can you go ahead and cover that in the session? I'll cover it in the session, and then you can go back and watch the recording. So this is really powerful, $800 value just to provide you the flexibility to kind of go through this on your own time if you'd like. Okay. So kind of layering this together with what we already talked about, the live sessions, the deep work sessions, and the community, right? In addition to that, you could have a one-on-one session with me one week, right? Where we're going to go through your business and talk one-on-one for 30 minutes. You can message me any of these days, right? And I'm going to respond within 24 hours. And then you're going to have access to recordings, templates, and workbooks. So all of this is designed to really give you a really, really, really high level of support for a low investment price point, right? And again, there are only 10 spots available, and those are going to fill up. So go and grab your spot and make sure you reserve it, right? And also get in before that price increase. So this is what the total value looks like. Those bonuses in and of themselves are a $6,400 value, especially that one-on-one session and messenger access to me directly. I don't know if I'll do that again. $6,400 value. So if you add that into the $4,600 value from the stuff before, this program is really an $11,000 value, and you're getting it for an investment of only $997. And again, you're getting a lot of those one-on-one coaching components which you don't see at these price points. And that's one of the reasons I'm going to be increasing the price to $1997, unless I get the 10 people right off the bat, right? But we'll do some more sessions where we're going to increase that price. So again, go to ryanloyd.com/start now, and the link's in the chat there still, and let's get started together. I would love to work with you. And again, if you want to talk about it, book one of those 15-minute sessions with me at the link at the bottom of the cart page, and we can talk about it if you're not comfortable just going in and purchasing. I want to make everyone feel as comfortable as possible, and I'm really just there to support you, and I'm there for you. The other thing I do too is a 14-day money back guarantee. I understand as a business owner that things change, that we have budgets, and that you may get in and it may not be a good fit. I don't think that will be the case, but it may not be. And no questions asked. 14 days in, you can just ask, hey, Ryan, I'd like my money back. And we'll go from there. So let me just come off slides just to talk to you. I want to help get yourself and your business to the next level. I want to be your coach and your partner and your crew chief in that effort, right? And again, you've probably tried things in the past with goal setting. You've probably been frustrated. You've probably started over and over and over again, right? And I want to help you find something where you can level yourself up. You can get yourself to the next version in this area, and that is going to impact your business immensely. And I want to be your partner and to help you get there, right? So let's get to the next version of yourself, and let's overcome and not have those feelings of discouragement and putting fires out anymore. If you just look at this just from a dollar standpoint, we talked about the dollars before in the slide at the beginning, right? If we take those numbers and you could gain back 8 hours a week, which I think you can gain back a lot more than that. But if you could gain back 8 hours of time a week in your business, and that meant you were making $800, you were basically paying for this investment in a week and a half, right? So even from a like money numbers standpoint, this makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. Okay. And again, I'm only partnering with 10 people. So go to that link, ryanloyd.com/start now. Let's get started. This is how the dates are going to work out. I'm going to close cart for this price point on Saturday, December 20th. So this Saturday. And then it's going to increase after that. And then we're going to start Monday. We're going to have we'll have our first session Monday. And then also in between the time you purchase and the time we start, you can book a one-on-one call with me where we can have that onboarding call and get into this. Okay. And then we run from Monday, December 22nd to February 13th. And we'll probably maybe skip a week for the holiday. So I've added an extra week in here. So you're actually getting 9 weeks of support rather than just the 8 with the holiday there. This is a great time of year to do this too, because you can kick off and get going into 2026 with a lot of momentum. Okay. The other thing I just wanted to cover too was my core values and my talents. I think it's really important to share those with those we partner with. I value one-on-one connection over automation. Again, in the world of AI, I think the most valuable thing with business is one-on-one connection. I love serving people. I love telling people about things that I've learned about. I love learning about things from other people and serving. And also in business, I am a growth mindset person. There is enough business out there for all of us in the market. We just need to be there to support each other. Okay. So let's build that business freedom together for you. Let's get you to the next level. Go to ryanlloyd.com/start now and let's partner and let's get you to this next level and get you this 90-day goal. Okay. I'm going to open it up for questions. I will leave the link in the chat and leave this up on the board here, but I will answer any questions that any of you have. You can ask questions about the content I shared earlier with goals and tactics and to-do lists. You can ask questions about the program, anything that you want, and I will stay on as long as we need to answer any questions everyone has. Okay, well, thank you everyone for being here. Thanks for taking the time. I'm honored that you would take the time to attend this workshop. I hope that it has been valuable. I look forward to anyone who's signing up, getting to work with you, and going from there. Again, thank you for your time, and I hope everyone has an amazing holiday.